So Sam, why is contextual advertising such a hot topic at this year's Cannes?
Well, it's a huge topic because of what we're seeing, obviously, in tracking and measurement. I mean, obviously, between ATT and Cookie-mageddon and all these things, I think we're having to rethink targeting. I mean, one-to-one targeting, as we know it, will be a thing of the past, for the exception of first-party data. But contextual advertising for mainly prospecting and those kinds of campaigns is going to be really important.
So contextual is obviously part of a wider addressable media landscape, which covers everything from a new portfolio of ID solutions to seller-defined audiences, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How does it fit into that wider ecosystem? What is it good for?
Well, I think the first piece is that I'm most interested in is really life stages, to be honest with you. There's a lot of transactional data around life stages, that from companies that obviously have that transactional data that give you a great sense of reaching consumers as they enter a new life stage or exiting a particular life stage. I think that's really important. I think a second piece is, content consumption, which has been around for some time for certain, but I think it's going to have probably hyper focus and probably a 2.0 version of sort of content targeting and interest targeting for certain.
So getting contextual right is obviously complex. There are all sorts of types of content which might register against some sort of index, but might actually be poor places for an advert. Do we have the tools we need to really give advertisers the confidence that they're advertising next to the right content?
So as relates to the tools, I think first the piping has to go in, and we're starting to see the piping. So you see things like Walmart doing a deal with Roku or Shopify doing a deal with Roku. You see some of these kinds of things happening for certain. So you see, once the pipes, I think, get set in first, the second piece is the taxonomies. And obviously the taxonomies are really going to vary. I mean, I think that's probably one of the things that's the scariest if you're on the buy side, because there's going to be a lot of variances in taxonomies. There's going to be a lot of variances in freshness of data, a lot of variances in size of audiences. And so I think that the first piece is just understanding what is going through the pipes, then classifying, codifying it, and then ultimately, hopefully making that stuff, biddable, targetable, and measurable in some way, shape, or form.
Is contextual good for media owners? Does it encourage them or incentivize them to produce types of content which we as readers might not always want?
I think contextual, well, first of all, let's talk about the consumer, because I think the first piece of the consumer, I think if it's in the benefit of the consumer, that's the first piece. I think that's a good thing. And I think we all would agree that, privacy, should be a right for all intents and purposes. And for the consumer, that's a good thing. I think for the publisher, there's going to be some adapting for certain, because a lot of infrastructure has been built around sort of legacy cookies and those kinds of things. And I think ultimately it may lead to less commoditization, quite frankly, in a lot of ways, and it's going to force publishers to be strong at something. They're going to have to flex new muscles or flex the muscles that make them unique in the marketplace.
So Sam, finally, you work for one of the most forward-thinking agencies in the States. What are you building out as an agency to help your clients really make the most of contextual?
Well, I'd say we're hyper-focused certainly on connected TV, and I think connected TV for us is really important. And I'd say that probably the biggest thing for us is thinking about those brands that have a hard time reaching consumers on terrestrial TV or linear TV in some way, shape, or form. And connected TV gives us an opportunity to do some things that are quite smart. And so let me give you some examples. I mean, I think the first one is, frankly, geographic data. I think geographic data, when we talk about contextual data, is still among the most interesting data sets because you have an opportunity to actually emphasize media in the places where it matters most for a business. And connected TV is giving us that ability. I think the second piece is, being able to think about, sort of this life stage of consumers. So life stages are now, that data is now starting to pipe into TV, and quite frankly, into connected TV, that is. The life stage piece is among the most interesting because we really weren't able to really do that in linear with any kind of precision. And so I think that's tremendously exciting for our clients. And I think the third piece is what I'd call the transactional pieces of it. And I think the transactional piece is super interesting. I think it's early days. I think we're going to stumble a little bit until we sort of get the formula right. But I do think the consumer will be there at some point because of the convenience and, quite frankly, the ease of it all.